It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed, on a Monday, and great to have you with us wherever you may be watching, whether it's on one of our over 220 affiliates in the U.S. and Canada, whether it's on the YouTube channel, Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, watching us on Spotify, wherever you might be ingesting this show. We appreciate you doing so. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Lots to do over the next 60 minutes on this show. Brian Twining will stop by because if it's a Monday, we are recapping what took place in NASCAR. But listen, there is so much to get to, Sam Yarnell, and it was not a good weekend if you were a New York sports fan. Well, maybe if you were a Met fan, but not if you were a Yankees or Knicks fan. And look, the Knicks found themselves up against it when they lost game one of this series. And I tweeted this out on Friday night. Friday night? Was that the finale? Yeah, Saturday night when they lost to the Pacers. I tweeted this out on Saturday night when they lost to the Pacers, Sam. As much as we could talk about all the different things in this series that took place, you can go back to game one. And if the Knicks take care of business in game one, we're talking about game 7 tonight at Madison Square Garden. And I know it's the fallacy of the predetermined outcome or preconceived outcome, all that stuff that people will like to say. But if the Knicks take care of business in game one, at worst right now, we're probably talking about game 7 at Madison Square Garden. There's no question that game deflated this team. Then they lose game 2, and then, everything's sort of set in motion from there. Yes, they win game 3, but obviously, they were behind the 8 ball from there. Here's what I'll say on Game 6 real quick, and then we'll move on from it because there's a lot to talk about here. You cannot miss 9 free throws or 10 free throws, whatever they missed. You cannot turn the basketball over 17 times on the road, and your 2 biggest stars cannot come up as short as Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns did in such a big moment and expect to come out of Indiana with a win. The Knicks simply did not deserve to win that game 6, and Indiana did, Sam.
You're exactly right, Jason, but I think that a thing that we're missing, that it seems like a large contingent of the basketball media world is just choosing to ignore, that a lot of fans seemingly aren't, is that this has to be the end of Tom Thibodeau. This is unacceptable playoff coaching from Tom Thibodeau.
It won't be, though.
Change your lineup 4 games into a series to guys who you famously, in Tom Thibodeau, had not been playing all season. It spelled the end of that team. That you knew that they were never going to be able to recover from that. As soon as Tom Thibodeau started going 11 and 13 guys deep on the bench with guys who had gotten, sparing minutes throughout regular season games, now you're going to give them any sort of minutes in the biggest, most important games of your season with everything on the line. Granted, it didn't work out as poorly as it possibly could have, but just opening that door led to the downfall of this Knicks team. Tom Thibodeau's way of coaching, clearly, from the way that this Knicks season ended, is not sustainable when you have a roster as talented as they do, with as many star players as they do, and as much depth as they do. What Tom Thibodeau has done should be considered a crime to basketball in this Eastern Conference final.
Sam, I don't disagree with you, by the way, that I believe they've maxed out where they can go with him.
Yes.
But I don't disagree with you. However, it is damn near impossible to fire a head coach coming off of a conference final when you see a team that has progressed the way this one has. Now look, there is going to be a seismic shift in terms of player movement in this offseason. And look, there have been shadier things that have happened in the coaching ranks where, Mike Malone may go behind, people's backs, and you're not supposed to try and go get a coaching job where somebody else already has a head coaching job. But would it shock anybody if Mike Malone went behind closed doors and tried to convince the Dolan hierarchy, that James Dolan,
yes,
that, hey, I'm the right guy for this job?
Yes, you're exactly right.
Could that scenario take place? Because that's the only way I see it happening. I do not believe that Leon Rose, who's a Tom Thibodeau guy, I do not see Leon Rose saying, off of a conference final season where we were 5 wins or 6 wins from an NBA championship, we are going to fire the head coach of this basketball team. I just don't see it.
Well, and another thing is, and I'm not saying that I think they will. I think they should, and I think Jason agrees to an extent that, like he said, it's the ceiling of where this team can go with this style of coaching. But do I think they're going to? No. You're going to ask me if the Knicks are going to do a competent move? No. Look at their ownership. Also, look at the fact that Jalen Brunson's dad sits down the bench from Tom Thibodeau on that coaching staff. It's not as easy as just cutting ties, but the Michael Malone thing is a perfect fit. It's what this team needs. I know the whole reason he got kicked out of Denver is because he was too hard coaching these star players. That's what the Knicks need. Imagine if these guys were coached by Michael Malone. They'd be a powerhouse in the Eastern Conference for years to come.
Sam Yarnell, when the show ended on Friday and we looked ahead at Monday's headlines, you said the Pacers were going to win. You also said the opening line for this series would be the Thunder minus 400. Sam, it's minus 750. No respect for the Pacers inside the bookmaking rooms.
Yeah, so this is actually something that went like semi-viral on sports gambling Twitter over the weekend. I think it's the highest line that we've ever seen in sports gambling history for an NBA Finals. Just truly incredible stuff. I think it speaks to two things, right? It speaks to the books coming into this Finals having a lot of liability on both sides, right? Everyone's seen the crazy tickets that are being held out there for the Pacers. 125 to 1 is like the low end of the number that people are hanging on to. And then on the Thunder, they were the most public team in the West coming into these playoffs. They were the team that Jason and I were talking about as a foregone conclusion to win the Western Conference, and now here they are. Yeah, you've got to end up hanging a number like that when you've got these two teams matching up. But Jason, I don't think anyone expected to see a number that big. It was astronomical when it opened.
The only bet is the Pacers plus 530. I mean, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know this. And look, if you bet against the Pacers and you go and lay that insane money on Oklahoma City, you do so at your own risk, because this Indiana team keeps proving people wrong time and time again. Of course, that could come to a screeching halt at the hands of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Real quick, by the way, my favorite moment from that Saturday night was right here, where Tyrese Halliburton thought he was winning conference finals MVP. There's the arrow. Not so fast, Lee Harvey. Pascal Siakam wins the award. We're coming back. All right, let's have some fun with Major League Baseball. By the way, for those of you asking, why aren't they talking about hockey? Dennis Bernstein joins us on the show tomorrow from Edmonton to preview the Stanley Cup. What are we going to say about it today that we can't say about it tomorrow? I'm waiting. Okay, that's what I thought. For those of you that want to plan out the show for us, because some want to do that. So, Sam Yarnell, let's talk some baseball for a couple of segments today. First, let's recap a couple of the big top stories from the weekend, and then we'll have some fun in the next segment. You're going to want to stick around for that. Yankees-Dodgers over the weekend. Look, it's not often you get a regular season series in Major League Baseball that captivates the imagination of baseball fans and sports fans in general. And with the Knicks series ending on Saturday and there really being no other playoff games, yeah, Scottie Scheffler at the Memorial elevated event. I mean, it was a good weekend to have Yankees-Dodgers. It really set up well to have that series. Unfortunately, Saturday's game was an epic blowout. The Friday night game was good. Yankees were up 5-2, and I'm sitting there eating my linguine and clams over at Stations Durango here in Las Vegas, enjoying my linguine and clams, and then I came out of the restaurant and I looked up and it was 8-5. What the hell happened? And Max Fried was on the mound when it was 5-2, and I said, "Oh, we're good." So wasn't the best weekend for me as a Yankee fan. The only team I still live and die with. But they did salvage the finale of the series last night. Ryan Yarbrough, man, Has he been just fantastic for this team? They're 4-1 in his starts. He's like Jamie Moyer throwing sidearm, basically. He's out there throwing, 83, 84 miles an hour. I love it. I love watching the guy. He had more swings and misses. There was a swing and miss stat they threw up last night. He had one of the highest numbers of swing and misses that the Dodgers have had all season. That Dodgers team against Ryan Yarbrough last night. It's crazy.
Yeah, weird weekend for pitching all across Major League Baseball. Jason, you saw a couple of Cy Young campaigns, and you mentioned the Max
come
Fried
on,
blow
one start
How about
is going to
Jesus
end it?
Luzardo? 12 earned runs in 3 1/3 innings. That was crazy.
Yeah, Jesus Lizard was not
you had
very good.
The rookie, the favorite to win NL Rookie of the Year, blow out his arm, and the manager wasn't paying attention to the game enough to go out and get him. That was bonkers. But yeah, this Yankees-Dodgers thing. First of all, did you know it was a World Series rematch? Were you aware of that? Because I wasn't sure, and then I tuned in, and no one stopped talking about. It was like every other. It was like remember back in the World Series on Fox thing when the Shohei Ohtani 3 batters away. Shohei Ohtani. It was like every third word. Oh, World Series rematch. Oh, these are the two teams that played in the World Series last year. And then outside of a few innings of good baseball on Friday, a clunker of a series altogether. Major League Baseball could not have dropped the ball more if they are, as some people are alluding to this year, messing with these games and altering the balls. I will say, though, I will victory lap this really quickly, because the biggest story to me this weekend was something I said on Friday, was that we would come out of this Yankees-Dodgers series and we'd have a new home run leader in baseball, and it wouldn't be Judge Ohtani. I said it would be Kyle Schwarber. Hand up, I was wrong. The Phillies were horrible this weekend. I mentioned Jesus Luzardo already. But how about Cal Raleigh? This guy will not stop hitting homers, Jason, and he's hitting them on the worst pitches that you could see. It's so fun to watch.
Yeah, the big dumper. Nice weekend for him and the Mariners. All right, move over to the other big news, and that's Jac Caglianone. You get the news that the Royals have decided to call him up. Obviously, this kid is a can't-miss prospect. He has torn it up in the minor leagues so far this year, Sam. And now, fans around baseball are going to get their first look at him. I collect baseball cards, and we've talked about this sparingly on the show. I'm a big card collector. And his card is the one that everybody's trying to get their hands on right now in the new releases that come out. And you're about to find out why. He is a real bona fide stud, Sam.
Yeah, this is a guy whose raw power tool grades off the scale. We're talking about a guy coming up and instantly being one of the 20 most powerful hitters in Major League Baseball, without question almost. The other tools still developing around it, obviously, but this is a guy who had an incredible career at Florida. This is a guy who was right next to Wyatt Langford, a guy who we've seen blossom at the Major League level for 2 years, I believe, down at the University of Florida, a guy who has copious success at the highest levels of baseball so far, played in the College World Series, played at Omaha, has rocketed through the minor leagues over the course of the past calendar year. This is a guy who was drafted less than a year ago, people. And Jason, there's been this narrative over the course of, I want to say, the last 3 weeks, maybe, that may be too generous, that the Royals are over manipulating Jac Caglianone's service time and keeping him down, and he's doing so well, you got to just call him up right now. Well, here's the thing, that's not correct. I could bore you with the details on player incentive promotions and things like that, and Super 2 details, which are eradicated essentially at this point. But the crux of the issue is this: the Royals are a team that no matter how much they've been struggling, have a bona fide stud at first base in Vinny Pasquantino, a guy who can hit the ball a country mile. They're a team that's been able to remain competitive with an MVP candidate if Aaron Judge didn't exist, and Bobby Witt Jr., and Chris Bubich, who's somehow remaining one of the best pitchers in the American League. They didn't have a spot for Jac Caglianone. This isn't a guy who can play everywhere. This is a guy who's a pitcher converted to an outfielder, a pitcher first baseman converted to an outfielder throughout the minor leagues. Again, over the course of the last year, this has nothing to do with service time manipulation. It has to do with getting a guy acclimated to playing professional baseball and doing something for his job rather than in addition to school. That's my little soapbox about Jac Caglianone. I can't wait to watch the kid play in Major League Baseball. I think he's going to tear it up. He'll contend for Rookie of the Year. He won't win it because Jacob Wilson's awesome, but Jac Caglianone is going to be a stud in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and look, that AL Central, I mean, there's still time for the Royals, so I mean, you bring them up.
Wide open, dude.
There's still plenty of time. You hope to catch a lightning in a bottle with him, and spark some other guys around that lineup. And again, it is difficult. We were talking about it last week on the show with Ford in the Mariners organization. They're facing the same issue. You think they wouldn't love to have him up right now, but you'd rather these guys be getting at bats every day than sitting on the bench and playing once every 5 days. And that's the issue a lot of these teams face. So Caglianone's going to get some run here for the Royals, and we'll see what it looks like for them. All right, we're coming back. Was there a full moon around Major League Baseball this weekend? I've got 3 examples to show you. We'll get to them next. Welcome back to Sports Wrap. Coming up in 10 minutes. Scottie Scheffler's won 3 times in the last 4 weeks. But I do think his dominance needs to be put into some perspective. Beat Ben Griffin yesterday. Outdueled Ben Griffin, who won the week prior on the PGA Tour. Wins Jac's event, the Memorial. Got the old famous handshake coming off the 18th green at the Memorial. We'll get to that coming up. Well, yes, Sam.
Since we're on the topic of Major League Baseball and you mentioned Scottie Scheffler, there was a stat that went around yesterday. I'm not sure if you saw it. Today's obviously June 2nd. Mm-hmm. So if we go back in the last calendar month, since May 2nd, the Colorado Rockies have won 3 games.
Oh, my God.
Scottie Scheffler has won 3 tournaments.
Oh, my God. They're 9-50 on the year. 9-50. Our poor buddy Clint Hurdle.
They have as many wins as Scottie Scheffler in the last month. He plays once a week.
9-50. You imagine what that? I mean, oh, man, I can't. I just can't. I saw things popping up on my phone all weekend, and I just kept saving them. And I said, we got to talk about this on Monday. And I kept looking around for like a full moon. I was like, there had to be a full moon around Major League Baseball or something this weekend with some of the stuff that was going on. So I said, let's have some fun on this Monday edition of the show and go around baseball and some of the weirder things we saw around baseball this weekend, starting with Taylor Walls, who takes a called strike at the bottom of the zone, maybe just a little below the bottom of the zone, against the Houston Astros in the 9th inning. I mean, the game's almost over. And calls timeout, fixes his tape, fixes his hands a little bit. Then he taps his helmet. And the umpire says, no, we're not doing that. Tosses him from the game. Taylor Walls says, no, I wasn't doing anything. Manager comes out, tries to obviously defend him. Taylor Walls loses his mind. He went like almost George Brett on this home plate umpire. What's his name? Tim Lenz, I think, something like that. Taylor Walls. Nick Lentz. There you go. Tim, Nick, doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Just
start calling him Tim Ferguson. See what happens.
There you go. Nick Lenz losing his Taylor Walls losing his mind against Nick Lenz. By the way, Taylor Walls does this thing where he goes and runs back after him and then realizes, oh my God, there's nobody in front of me. I better stop, otherwise I'm going to kill this guy. So probably a suspension of some kind coming for Taylor Walls. I think he did it just so he doesn't have to wear the gay pride uniforms that the Rays will probably be wearing one of the next couple of days, because we know he's a huge fan of wearing those. Yes, Sam. You know I'm right. You know I'm right, by the way.
I will say this. It will be ridiculous if Major League Baseball suspends him for this. Nick Lentz making an absolute ump show out of this in the 9th inning. As you alluded to, man, just everybody just calm down and go home. Like, he didn't mean as
You
much
don't
as
think
Nick
he was
Lenz clearly
tapping his
thought he
head?
did.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold on. You don't think he was tapping his helmet as if to signal for a challenge? To mock the challenge system? I think he was. And even after the game, Taylor... Hold on. Even after the game, Taylor Walsh said, when cooler heads started to prevail a little bit, he even said, I can see how he might have interpreted it that way.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. He can interpret it that way all he wants. Nick Lenz still has no place to throw Taylor Walls out of the game, who had come in as a pinch runner and was in the middle of his first plate appearance of the game. You have no right to make the ump show out of the ninth inning of that game when a guy maybe needed to adjust his batting helmet. As an umpire, theoretically, right, it is your job to be the adult in the room, right? So maybe put on your big boy pants, Nick Lenz, and understand that, you can give a guy a benefit of a doubt in the ninth inning. It's just so ridiculous to me that major league umpires continue to get the leeway that they do when just making these asinine decisions that cannot be challenged or reversed.
Yeah, nothing. You know what? There isn't anything bad enough on a baseball field that could happen to Taylor Walls that I won't be that I absolutely will not have a problem with. Kobe Mayo, Exhibit B of the full moon around Major League Baseball this weekend, who, by the way, I am thrilled to finally see in the major leagues. Kobe Mayo, RBI single, and then gets caught in a rundown and then decides to try and run into a fielder to try and create an interference play. Then he pushes the fielder Sosa out of the way as he's walking off the field. It got a little contentious. The dugout's empty. It's time to play the feud. Everybody get involved. And Kobe Mayo.
Yeah,
not the greatest way to start your major league career. I love Kobe Mayo though. I love mayo. And by the way, if you don't like mayonnaise, there's something wrong with you. Everybody loves mayo.
Jason Page, known Will Levis fan. Listen, Kobe Mayo, huge prospect, right? Great story. And I think that this embodies something larger going on with the Baltimore Orioles organization. That is, they have all of these prospects and they're all like doing really well at minor league levels, but still not getting called up because the Orioles refuse to move players for whatever reason. So I think that kind of just flared up a little bit there, but also Kobe Mayo, don't be an idiot. That's a very idiotic thing to do. You didn't need to push Lennon Sosa. You didn't need to push him again after that. Just really like high school last guy on the bench kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was a very strange play, but not any stranger than this one. George Springer, ladies and gentlemen. Did you see this one? George Springer against the Oakland Athletics. So excited to be on third base. He said, jump around, jump up and get down. Unfortunately, the Oakland A's third baseman Max Schumann decided he was going to do the Schumann special, and he decided to just lay the tag on him and hold it there while Springer was jumping up and down. Originally called safe, call overturned. George Springer is out. Something tells me he will not jump around on the base paths anymore.
Shout out to Shu. That guy rocks. And shout out to Eastern Michigan. I used to work with Max Schumann way back in the day. Really nice guy, and glad that he finally got a little shine, even if it was in this weird moment. Dude,
wait a second. Wait. We're glossing over the headline here. You worked with him?
Yeah, super nice guy. Love Max Schumann. Shu, if you're out there watching this, hope you're doing well, man. Love watching you in the show.
We got to get him on the show. I got to get in touch with the A's. We got to get Max Schumann on the show now. I'm making that call today. We are going to make that happen. I'll even let you lead the interview. How's that? We're coming back. Golf next. Welcome back to Sports Wrap. Coming up in 10 minutes, Brian Twining of Bleacher Nation stops by to talk about Ryan Blaney winning in Nashville. Get some NASCAR talk in. See what he makes of that race. Sam Yarnell, we are watching greatness in golf right now. There's just no getting around it. Scottie Scheffler is dominating at a level we have not seen since the greatest years of Tiger Woods. I mean, that's the only thing we can really compare it to right now with what Scheffler is doing. Another win for him, third in 4 weeks. This one coming at Jac's event, the Memorial. And, you know, as much as I want to sit here and wax poetic about Scottie Scheffler, one, it's difficult to do because he's as exciting as wallpaper, you know, off-white wallpaper. There's two components here that I want to discuss. We can watch him and you can watch him and we can all tell you he's a great golfer, okay? Nobody's going to argue or dispute that. But there are two things here that I think when analyzing his greatness or his place in history, or trying to put his greatness into some sort of context that you have to discuss. One is the fact that we cannot ignore there is a segment of the great golf population or a segment of the great golfers that are in the sport that are not on the PGA Tour playing with him on a week in, week out basis. That is something that cannot be dismissed. 2, he does not have a rival. And again, neither of these things are his fault. Neither of these things are things he is responsible for, Sam. But it does take some of the luster off what he is doing right now, that there is no rival. Tiger had Phil. You know, Tiger always, it felt like, had something. At times it was Tiger versus Tiger even. There is nothing out there. You know, Ben Griffin. I mean, I love Ben Griffin. Got a win last week. He's a wonderful story if you want to go and read up on it. And it's nice that, you know, he won last week, finished second this week. Nice story and all. And he stared down Scheffler for 11 or 12 holes yesterday before finally succumbing to the greatness that is Scottie Scheffler. But Sam, those are two things you cannot ignore. The fact that there is a certain part of the greatness of golf that is not even playing on the same tour with him.
That's true, but his greatness did start before that was the case. I think that, and it's not like he doesn't have to play and hasn't won majors against that in that exact same field during this time period. What I think is interesting is the rivalry thing, because as much as Tiger had Phil, it is starting to get comparable because Scottie is approaching the age where the Tiger and Phil rivalry really started to bud. Again, Scottie Scheffler's only 28 years old, people. I think because the fact that the guy looks like he's 35 and acts like he's 55, a lot of people forget that. But the guy's only 4 years older than me. The guy's only 28 years old. So he's got a lot of time in front of him.
Does.
On the rivalry
but
point,
we thought
though,
that by the way we thought that with Rory when Rory was one win away from the Slam, and then it took him forever to win the Slam. So let's just say that. That's
true. The thing that I keep drawing back to on the rivalries with Scottie is this. It feels like he has had budding rivalries at times, right? Like there was, especially over like all of last season, there was a rivalry there with Rory. Even within the PGA Tour, because it was on the course and off the course. Scottie didn't like how vocal Rory was being about everything that was going on between the PGA and LIV, and then obviously what happened on the course and Rory finishing, the PGA Championship, where he speeds away in the courtesy car and does the burnout or whatever that you and I talked about on this show. It seems like every time someone else comes into the fold, it was Bryson for a period too, right? Even though they were on different tours. Every time someone else seems to challenge Scottie Scheffler, he's got this innate way of reestablishing his dominance. Whether it be head-to-head against that person or against the rest of the field, it seems like every time we enter someone new into this conversation, after Rory completed the Grand Slam, he was the favorite to win at least 2 of the remaining majors. Scottie now the favorite in all of them, Jason. Every time his greatness is approached, he immediately defends it and goes above and beyond in doing so.
Here's the bigger, and here's another thing though, and I'm not discounting any of what you're saying. Here's the other problem for golf though when it comes to Scottie Scheffler, and it comes with the comment that I made at the start, where I mean he's off white wallpaper.
Yes.
You know, when Tiger was at his peak, if Tiger had said, "I'm walking away and I'm going to go start my own tour," or "I'm walking away and I'm going to leave, I'm done," I mean, golf would have been devastated. It would have been decimated. If Scottie Scheffler said either of those two things right now, that's what you'd get. Nobody would care. Nobody would care. He's not a dynamic figure. He is not a figure that I am not buying a ticket to go watch a PGA Tour event because Scottie Scheffler's playing in it. And I don't think a lot of people are, because he's just one-dimensional. There's just nothing to him. And by the way, again, I hate to say this again, none of this is his fault. This is just who the guy is. He's boring as you know what. But wrong guy for this time. That's all I'm saying. We're coming back. Coming up in 10 minutes, it's odds and ends. But first, let's talk some NASCAR. Spent a good chunk of my Sunday afternoon watching the race in Nashville over on Prime Video. It was my first experience watching a heavy dose of NASCAR over on Prime Video. And I have to say, I was impressed with the coverage. I was just talking about it with this guy, Brian Twining. Our friend over at Bleacher Nation does a great job on NASCAR over there. Joins us on Mondays here to talk about NASCAR when we're not off for holidays and things like that. And I have to say, I was impressed with the coverage and the job that, especially for their first 2 weeks of doing it. We see hiccups in a lot of these things when they're first getting started, and it feels like Prime Video is just taking the coverage and run with it.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air, I think, too, which also makes it more exciting for people, is that it's a bunch of newer faces or older faces in the space with a new platform, like Danielle Trotta, who's hosting the pre and post race coverage. She's fantastic. And then you and I, we just chatted real quick before jumping on here, but Adam Alexander in the booth on play-by-play is incredible. And then the fact that they got Dale Jr. back and Steve Letarte with all the knowledge that they bring in the booth as well it's just really nice to have different people doing the races. And then, of course, my favorite part, no full screen commercials when it really matters, which to me is like the most important thing in a sporting event that basically never stops.
Yeah, it's true. Ryan Blaney, your winner in Nashville, and now every Penske driver has won this year. And I mean, that's how you spell dominance.
Yeah, I remember about a month ago, maybe a little bit over a month ago, you were asking me to be if we should be worried about Joey Logano, and then he goes out a couple weeks later, he wins a race, and Ryan Blaney, he's got 5 DNFs this year.
Yeah.
It just seemed like he was never going to get it done, and he finally gets his win. Cindric too. Like this team, they just know how to work the current NASCAR system better than everybody else, and now they can kind of focus on maybe adding wins in the regular season, but they've probably all turned their attention to how they're going to advance in the playoffs already.
It is remarkable. What stood out to you about the way Blaney went about winning this race?
Honestly, it was really the first time that I've seen that team make an aggressive call on pit road in terms of taking 2 tires when everybody else was taking 4, when traditionally Ryan Blaney is not a guy that makes those type of moves. He just kind of goes with the flow and then tries to win based off the speed of his car. But I think it was fairly apparent that it didn't matter how fast your car was. Times leveled out after about 20 to 25 laps, and you needed track position gained on pit road, which this pit crew, which made multiple changes so far this year, has improved dramatically, which is why he ultimately won the race.
What does it say about Carson Hocevar? He won the open race at the All-Star. Now he's second here. Feels like there's some real momentum here for Carson Hocevar, and this young driver seems to really be emerging and sort of growing into himself.
Yeah, I know we didn't get to jump on here last week, but from my vantage point, I thought Carson Hocevar was the best car on track in Charlotte, and I thought for sure he was going to win. And even the sports books have started to take notice, because coming into this week, he was kind of priced in a similar range of, say, Brad Keselowski, Christopher Buescher, all guys with good pedigrees of past performances, while Hocevar is still in his second full-time year. He's a gas smasher, and he's just fast everywhere we go. And, we head to Michigan, his home state, coming off of a runner-up, coming off of a Charlotte race where he was quite possibly the best car. It seems like a win is imminent for that team.
What's allowed for his growth, though? Because, early in the season, there was talk about his maturity. I remember we had him out here in Vegas, and there were conversations about, maybe some of the riskier moves he was making on the track. Is it that he's just simply, is it literally just a matter of maturity? Could you really grow up that fast?
I think it's the fact that it seems like Spire Motorsports, they're not afraid to let their drivers be themselves. And I think that's what's allowing Hocevar to blossom, in the fact that he does drive very similarly to Ross Chastain's style when he first came into the Cup Series. And, it's all aggression all the time. We're racing from green flag to checkered, regardless of where I am on the track. And until somebody tries to rein him in, I think you're just going to continue to see this. And I think that actually allows him to be better, because he's not afraid to put his car in places that other people would say, oh, he should have, as they did this weekend when Hay and Stenhouse got into it. A lot of people were saying, oh, that's Hocevar's fault, when from my vantage point, he had the spot. Stenhouse should have given Hocevar the spot, because Stenhouse took it.
Give me a thought.
Hocevar took it.
Yeah. Give me a thought. I knew what you meant. Give me a thought on Bubba Wallace here. He's a lap down. He looked like he was in all sorts of trouble here. And, looking back over the last few races, he was starting to lose ground. A top 6 finish for him, and one that he really needed.
Yeah, it was a very impressive performance by the 23 car. And at times yesterday, I was even contemplating playing him to win the race, because he looked like he possibly had the fastest car on track at certain points. And for him to overcome that early, mishap of going a lap down and then finishing where he did in 6th place was an incredible kind of change in fortune from what we've seen in past years from him. When something would go wrong, it would just spiral out of control. And he was able to do that, like you said, in a season where stuff hasn't been going right for them over the last month. And it was good to see them get speed again in this package, which they've kind of struggled with so far this year.
Yeah, and now we go to Michigan, and you mentioned Hocevar. Who else do you like or looking early on for next week, real quick?
Yeah, no, the 2311 cars, Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, they're going to be really fast. And Denny Hamlin, he is definitely out for blood. I mean, he had possibly the best car in Nashville again.
Brian Twining, check him out. Bleacher Nation, I always appreciate you. Have yourself a great week. We'll see you next week.
Yep. See you later, Jason.
We're coming back with more Sports Wrap on this Monday. Don't go anywhere. Okay, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Monday. Before we do, a couple of reminders. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show. Commercial free, Monday through Friday. Make sure to check that out. You can also watch us on over 220 affiliates around the U.S. and Canada, but you can also watch the show on Spotify each and every weekday. Shows available early every weekday afternoon. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, commercial free Monday through Friday. In addition to the show, we have something called Sports Wrap Shorts. Yes, clips from the show, sometimes clips not from the show. There's always news breaking in sports, and when it does, we are there to bring you analysis and some quick thoughts through Sports Wrap Shorts. Go and subscribe to our Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel today. Fast, easy, free, and there for you whenever you need it. All right, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, hopefully not the end for Corbin Burnes. My goodness. Arizona Diamondbacks ace dealing with an injury. MRI is set. He was pulled from a game over the weekend, and you just hope it's not the worst case scenario. He's set for an MRI. Just 70 pitches after dealing with some right elbow discomfort. And whenever you hear elbow discomfort and a guy getting pulled from a game, it's never a very good sign. Manager Torey Lovullo said that he'd have the MRI here on Monday. And who knows, by the time you see this show, wherever you may be watching, our friends watching on Arizona Family Sports, you may already have the worst news imaginable when it comes to Corbin Burnes. Hopefully it is not the case. We are crossing our fingers for Corbin Burnes that it is not the worst news. We'll wait and see what that MRI yields. Hopefully it is nothing too serious. A story that is just hard to fathom how how professional athletes do these things. Everybody's built differently. And when you hear the story of Elly De La Cruz, the Red Star, who I expected big things out of this year, and he's delivering. Cincinnati lost to the Cubs 7-3 on Sunday, but it was Elly De La Cruz, the 23-year-old, learning of his sister's death, his older sister's death. But manager Terry Francona said that Elly De La Cruz wanted to be in the starting lineup on Sunday. And what did he do? He hit a 2-run home run out of Wrigley Field. The 50th home run of his major league career, his young major league career. He pointed to the sky and clapped as he reached home plate. All the best going out to Elly De La Cruz and his family. I'm sure at some point this is all going to hit him. But in the meantime, right now, baseball is something that could obviously bring him some comfort. Apparently, Elly De La Cruz's sister, Janellis, dying on Saturday after she had been dealing with some health problems for some time. De La Cruz did not speak with the media after the passing of his sister, but our best wishes go out to Elly De La Cruz and his family, dealing with obviously a very painful loss. Odds and ends. And Maya Stark is your winner of the U.S. Women's Open, presented by Ally, out at Erin Hills, which was a very formidable test for the best in women's golf. We saw it test the men as well, and obviously a very formidable test for the women. Maya Stark of Sweden captures her first major and $2.4 million in the process. She shot a 72 on Sunday in the final round to best Nelly Korda and Rio Takeda by 2 shots in that event. Maya Stark, your winner at Erin Hills on a day where we talked about Scottie Scheffler and his dominance. Boy, you look up and down the women's leaderboard, and we talk about the international nature, of the sport of golf. And when you look at it from the perspective of where the women's game is right now, outside of, Nelly Korda, Haley Cooper, who finished 4 shots behind Maya Stark, Angel Yin, who finished 5 shots behind. You look at this leaderboard. I mean, it is littered in a good way, by the way, with flags from all over the nation in the women's game right now. The sport of women's golf right now has never been set up from an international standpoint. It has never been set up in a more positive manner when you talk about the international flair for the game. There was one point that I looked on Friday or Saturday at the leaderboard at the U.S. Women's Open, and I mean, it was like the United Nations in that it was such an international flair across the leaderboard. Certainly fantastic for the game of women's golf, and congratulations to Maya Stark on the accomplishment, her first major, the U.S. Women's Open, one of the toughest tests, obviously, in all of golf. And again, just a couple of weeks away from the U.S. Open for the men out at Oakmont. That is the next time you will see Scottie Scheffler competing. He will not be taking part in the RBC Canadian Open this week. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you to Brian Twining for hanging out with us, Sam Yarnell as well, you for watching. We'll see you back here on Tuesday. Dennis Bernstein will be part of the show then, as will Kurt Heelan. I'm Jason Page. We'll see you then.